Hello, hello, hello. I believe we are live. Um, I'm just checking. It's usually, yes. Okay, good. So I had to go to a couple different places to confirm because here's the thing. I was supposed to start 10 minutes ago on this. This is the first time I made a decision to change LinkedIn Lives to Wednesdays at 9 a.m. I do not know, 9 a.m. Central Time. I don't know if I'm going to keep this. It's a bit of an experiment, and there were multiple reasons why I think this could be a really good time. Um, but already I'm learning that there are other things I need to do differently in my morning in order to shift to a 9 a.m. call. So here I am. I apologize if you I can't imagine that you waited for 10 minutes for me. It, but if you know me, you probably know I'll be here. Um, but the bigger thing is, the recording will be available, and I'm here now, and maybe you just got alerted that I went live. I think it works like that, and so hopefully you're here now as well on all of the channels. Thank you to YouTube and Facebook and of course LinkedIn and my tools, Zoom and Restream. I love that tool. And now, the, I need to just figure out this new routine. And I think that's true for, that, I mean, I know people, you have experienced this where you have a new routine and a few things kind of don't go quite as planned, fall to the wayside, whatever it is. But here I am. So I wanted to talk about um, a topic near and dear to my heart today, and I had written about it, of course, in my blog, and I titled it like, you know, before you look at your to-do list, do this first. And it's something that I coach my clients on. It's a process that I call the three VIPs. I learned it from my own coach, a couple different coaches that I have worked with in the past use a version of this. And mine's slightly different perhaps, but they use a version of this. And they don't call it VIPs. That's my name for it. But VIP is an acronym. It stands for very important priorities. And so the thing about the VIPs, when I talk about very important priorities, do not confuse this with a to-do list. That is the thing. Your VIPs are not your to-do list, though it's more of a process that creates a list, and things on the list may actually also be on your calendar, on your to-do list, but they aren't your to-do list. So I just want to make sure that's the first thing we understand is that that this process is surprisingly simple. It's a bit magical, and it's not your to-do list. It for me is a process, and I use it. Here's my Post-it note. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second. I use it myself on the regular, and I'm going to talk about a daily VIPs, but inside of Career Alchemy, we talk about um, annual VIPs, like bigger priorities, and then monthly VIPs that serve those bigger priorities, and then daily VIPs may serve those bigger priorities, but they also may be serving other priorities that have come up in just because life is continuing to give us new things to attend to, right? And so that's I think the really important thing about having these three levels is that the daily VIPs help us to focus on what's immediate. The larger overarching VIPs help us to keep moving towards our bigger like the bigger lighthouse, right? The bigger goals that we're trying to put together for ourselves and experiences and things like that. So, how do you create the daily VIPs? Like I said, simple, a little bit magical, but the big key is that this is not a left brain thinking process. And you do not need to look at your calendar before doing this. I advise you not to look at your calendar or your to-do list. Like this should be the first thing you do as you're beginning your day. And you can do it with coffee. You can do it as you sit down to your desk. I often do it when I open up my desktop, but before looking at the to-do list that essentially my calendar, like what's happening this day, I will sit with myself and do the daily VIP process. So the reason, again, that you don't really need to look at your calendar is, trust me, you know what your to-do list is. You also know because you haven't succeeded in your life without getting things done. And when you have to-do lists, either through your own creation or created through other people's work expectations, those things will get done. They'll get done. This gives you a way to, I think that the point about it is that you are creating through the process a way in which to ensure every single day that you feel satisfied, accomplished, and just like really good about that day. So imagine that, right? That at the end of every single day, you're like, job well done, Lori. Like this felt like a really good, accomplished day. And you'll probably do more than three things. I can't imagine you won't do more than three things. I just, if you've watched these things, three is my magic number. My grandmother always used to say it was a magic number for whatever reasons. And she's passed, or I'd ask her, why was it that you always used to say, oh, three's a magic number? Where did that come from? But I've just decided that she was right. And so this is not to say that you won't do more than three tasks a day. Of course you probably will. But these VIPs, they become very important to creating daily satisfaction, joy, fulfillment, accomplishment. That's what the magic is there. And all the other stuff, great. But this, right? So again, don't look at your to-do list. Don't need to look at your calendar. You are going to begin by tuning into your inner wisdom, because as alchemists, we're constantly working that muscle of hearing the inner voice, like tuning out the noise, external noise and chatter, and lowering any sort of inner chatter and noise that might soften, make it harder to hear the real wisdom that's inside of you. So that's the VIP process, sort of in a nutshell, as far as what we're doing. We're tuning into this inner voice. So how do we do it? How do we continue to build that muscle of building trust with and acting from this inner guidance system? And this process helps with that. It's one of the ways that we can build that muscle. So the first thing you do is you get quiet, right? And you just ask yourself a simple question. What are the three things that if I were to get them done today, I would be happy, satisfied, and feel accomplished? That's the question. What are the three things, if I were to complete them today, get them done today, or make real progress on them today, would leave me feeling peaceful, happy, accomplished, satisfied? I love that word satisfied when I think about VIPs for some reason. Like that was a satisfying day at work, or at home, or in the backyard, or whatever it was. And so asking yourself that question and then getting quiet, I close my eyes usually and I just listen. And what rises up, that I use the Post-it note system, very complicated, very sophisticated. I just put it down on the three things that rose up through my inner voice, and I write them down. And I will say this, sometimes it's just kind of like, yep, that's what I expected. But there's those days when something completely unexpected will take you by surprise that your inner voice offered up. So I have a great example of this. And then I also want to tell you about, I'm going to tell you the example, and then I'm going to tell you a kind of about another unexpected bonus of the VIP process that one of my coaching clients told me about. So those are the things that are coming. So let's talk about my unexpected surprise, I guess. So one day I sat down at my desk, closed my eyes and simply asked myself, what are the three things, if I get them done or make good progress on one or more of them today, I will end this day feeling happy and calm and satisfied and productive and accomplished, whatever words you want to use. Then I just listened. And what came up was into my head was make that oil change appointment. And I'm like, huh? Like, like an oil change appointment seems so minuscule, right? But as soon as I kind of allowed that to be the truth, my whole body relaxed. I'd been postponing this appointment, making this appointment, you know, for probably a couple months. Like I knew I needed to do it. The little dial on my car said it was time. But I'd also had that voice in my head from my auto mechanic who said, "Oh, when that light comes on, you don't have to rush in here. You have plenty of time left, oil life left." And so that, of course, adjusted how I reacted to the oil life light coming on, and I had been delaying it. And so that rose up through my inner voice to be the number one VIP that I need, that was suggested I accomplish by the end of the day in order to create satisfaction and peace and joy. I was like, you know, initially kind of like, come on. But then I felt it in my body and I'm like, oh, I'm already thinking that this action, 5 minutes. I mean, how long does it take to schedule an oil appointment? But that 5 minutes, the energy, the space that not having done it for all of these weeks had taken up. I mean, now I saw the cost. Like then I got the cost. And that's why I felt so peaceful is I'm like, oh, I don't have to keep paying this price for not scheduling what may seem very mundane oil appointment, but in fact was super important and impactful. And so yes, of course, I did that. And the other two VIPs that came up were ones that were on my to-do list that I knew was a priority. And in fact, when I did it today, I said, prepare for the LinkedIn Live. That was a real priority for me. Keep working on my newsletter for next week and create a packing list because I'm going out of town and I, for a number of different reasons, haven't started packing yet. And that's been sort of bothering me, but there's a reason I can't, choosing not to do it right now, which is a good reason, but it's been bothering me because I feel like I'm going to forget something. So that is what the inner voice said. Just create a packing list. You don't have to pack yet. Just create the list. And then you will, again, free up that space where kind of that anxiety has been living. And you don't need to do that. And so I'm like, genius inner voice. Thank you. Yes. So I've created the packing list. I've done that already. And that, process, even with the oil change example, it isn't that the process always, your inner voice or the process of creating a daily VIPs is going to, isn't about the biggest things. all the time. It's often just like that pebble in the shoe that's been, it isn't, it isn't completely changing everything about how you walk. It's not causing blood, you know, but boy, it's just in there, right? And that's what the oil change was. This was this thing that was, not super painful or noisy, but certainly taking up space, an energetic space that could be freed up for other activities. And so that's why I felt such calmness. I was like, oh yeah, yeah, that is so true. That's so true. So so that's one, I guess, benefit of the VIP process, and the one that I thought was the benefit was that, often it's the pebble in the shoe that the voice, inner voice offers up, not, the blog deadline, the newsletter deadline that I do have self-imposed, but I have that and it's tomorrow. And so of course I know I'm going to get that done. And of course that is something that I want to make priority today. But the oil change, would, if I hadn't taken the time to slow down and listen, I wouldn't have, I don't, it would have still been causing me like subconscious anxiety, subconscious stress. I could feel it in my body, but I couldn't really pinpoint it. Now I knew. So the other story I want to share with you comes from a coaching client. So this is someone that I've been working with. We'd worked together. I don't know if it was we worked together maybe towards the end of last year. Did a series of the coaching that I offer that you can find out on my website, 6-month coaching packages. And she came back and she said, I'm ready to get started again. And we were talking, just catching up. And she said, I've got to tell you something. She said, one of the things that was most powerful for me was the VIP process. And she goes, I've been continuing with that process, like your voice has been in my head. And which is, I don't know, good thing, bad thing, but for her, it was super beneficial because she's like remembering me saying, until you do this for a while, you don't really get the magic of it, but there is magic here. And she said, I kept continuing with the process. And then, which really, uh, continued to be helpful because it would alert her to, and her version, she'd think about VIPs for work, and she'd also think about 3 VIPs for personal life. It isn't necessarily, and you can make it your own, right? But she said, I started to, and I don't know what time frame, if she did it every month or at the end of every week, whatever, but she said, I started to review my VIPs from the past, all of my daily VIPs that I had created, and I just flipped through at different times and look at them. And she said, it's this routine that she started of looking through her old VIPs led to a realization that they had become more than a daily planning tool for her, that they had become a record, I guess I'll say a record of what mattered most to her. It became a record of, like at a period of in time, she reminded her of what she was caring about at that time, what she was building at that time, what she was, who she was talking to, what work she was accomplishing. She said it just allowed her to see what she'd been working on, to see what she'd been building, to showed her progress in this time. Because how often do we, I don't know, I have been this way, is, I have this big thing that I'm working on and I'm giving all my energy to it and I'm enjoying that process. And then, when it's been completed, I'm like, oh, okay, next. And I go on to something else. I've talked about that here before, about sort of, not moving that quickly off of an accomplishment, but really, engaging your senses on how it felt, was there, how it, how what you, things you heard during the process, things you saw during the process, things you thought about during the process, uh, things you smelled during the process, if that makes sense. And really kind of steeping in it and letting it become a memory that has more depth and breadth to it. And when we go to just checking something off, like, "Oh, okay, good job, you." And then like, okay, now where do I need to put my time and attention? What else is required of me or being asked of me? But not giving time to really um, deepen the experience of an accomplishment, we really we we short change ourselves. And so she found that by reviewing all of this, that it helped her kind of acknowledge her progress that she'd been making. And it was more than that. It was really getting a sense of um, who she was and what she was bringing to the table, and it minimized the voice of despair, compare and despair that might come up, especially if you're an achiever. She's an achiever. And if you're ambitious, this is a way to be differently ambitious, in that you really no longer buy into that through comparison you should despair. You actually just look at your own progress, and I think athletes will, some of the top athletes will say that, that they compete with themselves, that they aren't comparing themselves to other people. And I do think that there is some benefit in looking to how other people are doing things, how they've created what they've accomplished, looking at what you admire about people, but not if it makes you feel bad about yourself, right? And this is a way to continue to build confidence and belief in herself as she reviewed her VIPs. So isn't that amazing? It's amazing additional benefit of taking literally a minute and a half. It does not take long to get quiet with yourself. Ask yourself the simple question, what are the 3 things, if I were to accomplish them or make good progress on them today, would leave me feeling peaceful, happy, satisfied, accomplished, productive, whatever that is. What are those 3 things? And then do those. And the one that comes in first, like, start there. If it's the oil change, the doctor appointment, the packing list, just start there. Free up that energy. And that right there starts the kind of the snowball of peaceful and joyful feelings and experiences through the rest of today. So if you can, start today, just right now, closing your eyes and saying, what are the 3 things that, if I get them accomplished today, will leave me feeling peaceful and joyful and happy and accomplished and satisfied? What are those 3 things? What came up for you right there? Write that one down. And you can become your most trusted advisor, creating satisfying days. You know how that, if today's satisfying and then tomorrow's satisfying and then the next day and then this week and then this month and then this year. I'm not saying we're, Pollyanna-ish here. I'm not saying we're, in fact, it helps with the challenging parts of every day to know that even with this challenge, if I do this with regards to that challenge, that will leave me feeling satisfied today. And it keeps us in this moment, experiencing this moment. And so you become your most trusted advisor. You create these layer upon layer upon layer of satisfying days. And not because you crossed the most things off your to-do list, but because you listened to your inner guidance system. You took action and followed that advice first and created this amazing life that you're building for yourself, that requires very, very little, but creates amazing experience for yourself. And that's what life should be about, or is about, really, is creating layer upon layer upon layer of wonderful, sometimes challenging, but always satisfying experiences for ourselves. So peace. I love you. I, reach out to me if you want to schedule a call, if you want to talk about joining Career Alchemy Academy or talk about what it would look like to work together. I always like to say that I am there. You are not doing this alone. There is a community that's building, of which I'm a part of which you are a part of, that is creating a change in work culture. And so it works for all of us. So let's go. Talk to you soon.